I'll say this. What's difficult about looking at games is when you watch tape and you study them, you learn a little bit more about each team every week, but you never stay the same. You either get better or you get worse. So when I look at this game, I see both of these teams, LSU and Tennessee, having some holes. In which difficulties try to figure out how much better they're going to be at fixing those things. What I've seen with LSU is a continual growth positively, meaning just a complete disaster of mistakes against Florida State. Got much better. I know they beat weak opponents, but just the clean way they fixed those mistakes to some degree. Now, last week against Auburn, blew some coverages early. I would not expect that to happen this week. If it does, then Tennessee will get an early lead and it could get lopsided. For Tennessee, it's been a little bit more of not the type of growth. It's been a little bit more of stagnation and not quite finding their rhythm. And I know they're winning and people are excited, but I'll say this: Tennessee is going to have to play better than they did against Florida, or they won't beat LSU. And now I think they will play better. And that's the tough thing is, will they, won't they? I don't know, but I think they will, because just the natural progression of what I watch, I think that they can get better. But the difference is I feel a little bit more about LSU correcting their mistakes than Tennessee, because I've seen LSU do it a little bit more sequentially, whereas Tennessee, even in their wins, some of their lopsided wins, not quite as good. LSU beat. And again, this is the danger. You don't know what you're going to get. It's not a 12-week season. It's 12 one-week seasons. LSU beat a really good Mississippi State team, a Mississippi State team that's got more talent than Tennessee. They've got a quarterback that's better than Tennessee's quarterback. They've got a passing game that's really good. They've got a running game and a defense that's much better. And LSU beat them. Now, I don't know that LSU in Baton Rouge, beat them. So I don't know. I still think Tennessee's more explosive and can score quicker in bunches. And that is Tennessee's real advantage. They get a lead. LSU can't go up and down the field with the passing game and match Tennessee. So to me, it's about, we talk about path to victory and the style of the game. I think that to me is the most important thing that I focus on, because people say, who's going to win the game? I mean, that's the answer. Who's going to be able to do those things? That's going to take you to the answer. I wish I had it. If I did, then I'd have all those big buildings in Vegas instead of, the gambler folks are good about that because they get 50% of the money going on either side and they make money. But trying to forecast it is trying to anticipate who's going to get better and whose style is going to impose their will on the other. And that's going to determine it in this game, I think.
Chris Landry of Landry Football joining us now. Man, the chill pills, Chris talked about them recently, and those chill pills are absolutely fantastic for they've got specific formulas for arthritis and digestive issues. You just go to crafttreats.com, and the chill pills are incredible at crafttreats.com. They can help your pet, whether it happens to be social anxiety, car ride anxiety. And don't forget, you save 20%. That's 20% if you check out with the exclusive code Off the Hook. Again, crafttreats.com. It's the chill pills. Check out with that 20% off promo code Off the Hook. Chris, I've got a pretty fast car. We talked about it the other day. I like fast cars, but I can do anything I want to that car, and it's not going to win the Indy 500. So, with that transition being a little stretched, what can Tennessee do to this secondary to make it significantly better? Or are these dudes just what these dudes are? Are they limited from a talent standpoint?
They're limited, but they certainly can get better from a technique standpoint. But the biggest thing they can do to get better to help the secondary is to up front play the run better with 7. They can't allow those guys to have to get the safeties in the box, and the corners have no help. If they've got to overplay the run with numbers, then that's going to be difficult for a really talented secondary that's loaded with, NFL draft picks. Um, so it's going to be difficult. So that is going to be the key. Look, if you can play split safeties and you can keep those safeties to help the corners out, and you can defend the run with 7, then you can be a pretty functional defense. You don't need to have great cover guys because you've got less area to cover. You can pattern match. You can basically play man. You can play zone coverage, but man principles in a zone coverage. But right now they're having to put too many numbers in the box to stop the run, which you've got to do that, or else they'll just run you out of the game, and that's the easiest way to lose. So that's the key, Dave. It's just they've got to help the secondary out. They're not going to, throw magic pixie dust and those guys are going to become great. What they need to do is help them a little bit more in up front to be able to defend the run. And if they can do that, and it's, again, people will look and say, well, they defended the run. They have to defend the run, and the run numbers, you got to look at how well are you defending the run with a base look and not putting 8 guys in the box, because that is the key. Because when you put an 8th guy in the box, you've got less guys in coverage. Well, do the numbers. Now, here's the thing in defending as it relates to this game. The guy you've got to be careful of is Neighbors. Neighbors is the guy that torched Mississippi State. And so they will find him, and he's not the most talented guy. Booty is the most talented guy, and he's been up and down, a little bit of a kind of a to himself. He's had a lot of personal issues. His girlfriend just had a baby a couple of weeks ago. I mean, he seems to be not in rhythm and maybe frustrated, the numbers and all that. But you got to be wary of him because he can take over a game. They've got more weapons in the passing game than, say, a Florida does. So I'm just using it as a comparison because of who Tennessee's played. So I think a couple of things. It's just, can you get the pass rush, and then can you be disciplined with your pass rush? You've got to be careful. It's not about just pass rush and containing a mobile quarterback. It's about pass rush containing a mobile quarterback in relation to the receiver's ability to get open. See, I thought they did a really good job against Anthony Richardson, for the most part, not letting him spoil the game with his legs. But it was Florida's receivers don't get open quite as well. I think LSU's do that a little bit better than Florida. So the pass rush is going to have to be good without allowing any rush lanes, escape lanes for Jaden Daniels, because, as you know, he can kill you there. And so you have to do that, and he's different. He's a thinner guy, but he's a quicker guy. So containing him and being in position is even more important, because if you're just 1 foot out of position, it's the difference between getting the right angle on keeping him in the pocket or allowing an escape lane, and then you do everything else well, and you're defending. When you've got a mobile quarterback, we talk about defense. You got to cover every gap, the gap between the center and the guard on both sides, gap between the guard and the tackle. When you have a running quarterback that you're facing, you got to defend an extra gap. That means you have to have an extra emphasis on the run, because you've got to defend 11 guys. Because a drop back quarterback, you're not defending him. He's distributing the ball. But a quarterback that can run, you got to defend him like you cover a running back. So whether it's a little bit of spy, whether it's a little bit of a mush rush, whatever, you've got to understand that you can have everything else handled and he can beat you. They did, again, a pretty good job with Anthony Richardson, but a different type of runner, dynamic runner in his own right, physical. But can they do that? And then if he does it, can Jaden Daniels escape and make plays downfield? That's going to be the key to the game. I mean, it's not a real mystery. It's just how well you execute it. It's easy to look and say, Tennessee didn't look all that impressive against Florida and Pitt, but they won. LSU didn't look very impressive against Auburn, quite frankly, and they came back and won. So there's some questions in my mind about both of these teams. I think there's questions about almost every team to some degree. But for these teams, I think this is a really good game, but I don't think either one of these teams are special. You know what I mean? I think they're good. I think most people see this as a special Tennessee team. If they go down and lay the beat down and can pull an upset over it, then that's when I start to think they're special. But what I've seen to this point is a team that's good, not great. I'm wanting to see if Tennessee can get great. I'm not sure that they've got that in them, but I'm open to watching it and seeing it. And I think this week might be a good opportunity for them to take that step, and we'll see if they can do it.
Coach Landry, just a quick question here, because I know you got to head out soon. How did LSU beat this Mississippi State team? What did they do to accomplish that? And can Tennessee, can they do that against Tennessee is what I'm wondering.
Well, defensively, what they did is they showed different pre-snap looks coverage-wise. See, Mississippi State's offense, when they call their offense, their receivers are not given a design route. The receiver has to decide what route he's going to run based on the coverage. So Matt House, the defensive coordinator at LSU, gave them a lot of pre-snap looks that he morphed into post-snap different looks. So receivers were often running an incorrect route based upon the pre-snap look. And so it really broke up the rhythm, and it got Mississippi State out of rhythm. And that was what they did defensively. Offensively, they didn't have success against Mississippi State early. A very good defensive team. That's what I said about Mississippi State. They're more complete. By the way, I said they were a little better than Tennessee overall. I think Mississippi State's more talented than LSU, and LSU beat them. But this is to answer your question. That's what they did defensively. Offensively, they didn't have a lot of success. But what they found, and it was a really good job by Mike Denbrock and Brian Kelly, they found a weak spot in State secondary, and they were overplaying the other side of the field, and they found Malik Neighbors, the guy I just talked about, and they just torched him. They were playing a lot of man. They didn't get out of man coverage, and they beat them. So that's where it's now. What is it? How does that translate to Tennessee? Where Tennessee, they're not real complex in what they call. They basically try to get there with tempo. So there's nothing schematically overly challenging about what Tennessee does offensively. What makes it difficult is the tempo in which they do it with. So I think the whole key is, to answer the question, can LSU slow down Tennessee's offense? It's really all about teaching them during the entire week how to make the calls on the field based upon what they're seeing and getting lined up quickly. We call it getting your cleats in the ground, meaning you can't be sitting there and looking, okay, making checks and the ball snap. You got to get there quickly, very simple, one word, checks, boom. And that's going to be the key. On the other side of the ball, LSU's offense is going to be very much the same. I mean, I think that LSU's offense that had some success against Mississippi State, I think that Mississippi State's got better defensive personnel than Tennessee. Can LSU have the same type of rhythm and success? I don't know. I think Auburn's defensive front's pretty good, and LSU struggled against it last week. I mean, they won the game, but they came back from 17 points down, so they kind of took it to them. But it was really the LSU's defense and the big play. That's going to be key. The other thing I would say that's going to be intriguing is, can Tennessee block LSU? LSU, this is the best defensive front that LSU's going to play. I mean, that Tennessee's going to play. They're better than Pitt. They're even faster on the edge. I think Pitt's defensive line was good, but remember, they were down a couple of guys when Tennessee played them. It's just going to be the best defensive front. So it's going to be the toughest blocking assignment. So the ball's going to have to come out quicker. And is that going to impede Tennessee's chances? Can they get in a rhythm early? Can LSU make a defensive play turn? Tennessee doesn't turn it over. So that was the turnaround play that led LSU come back against Auburn. Tennessee plays a clean game. It'll be tougher for LSU to pull it off. But no, I think it's going to be a fascinating game because I think it's got some strategic matchups, and I think this is going to be a challenge for Tennessee. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how the Tennessee fans or the Tennessee media feels about it, but I think this game is going to be a little bit more challenging than maybe Tennessee might think. Not the staff, but I think this will be a nice win. Not a great win, but I think a nice win if they're able to pull this off for Tennessee.